I'm Rebecca.
I'm Vicki.
This is Aging Answers, a podcast for families sorting out senior services.
If you're helping a parent or planning for yourself, we make the maze simple.
We cover care at home, assisted living, memory care, transportation, safety, and money questions.
We also explain benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, VA, and how they actually work in real life.
Each episode, you'll get a quick map of your options and simple next steps. No jargon.
No guilt.
Just clear answers so you can move forward. Welcome to Aging Answers, where we help mature adults understand what's changing in the senior industry and the options that are provided. And today we have with us Dottie, who's from Hallmark.
Hi.
Hello. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Dottie Yates. I live here in Dawsonville, and I own Hallmark Homecare, which is a referral agency for home caregiving.
Yeah. What's your why? Why did you start Hallmark?
Well, my dad has Parkinson's, and so several years ago, my sister and I had to do a lot of research to understand home care and what was available. And so we learned a lot about this business and saw some things that were good and some things that were not so good. And I had a long career in banking technology.
Oh, you're really smart.
No. But I just got to a point where I wanted to do something that was more of a give back, that made me feel good, like I could help people more than I could in online banking.
Yeah. What's the difference between an agency versus what your model is?
Sure. We're not a traditional agency. We're a referral agency. So we're actually recruiters, professional recruiters. So we recruit and place independent caregivers with our clients. So they kind of work directly for the client. The client has more control. And they don't work for us as W-2 employees, which means we have lower overhead and can actually pay the caregivers more.
Oh, I love that. More to the people actually doing the care.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
And actually what that allows us to do is get more experienced caregivers. You're kind of getting the cream of the crop caregivers that are out there.
Yeah. So what does that look like? When you're going in and you're recruiting someone, what is your, is there a background check? Is there a,
Oh, yeah.
What's that process?
Yeah, we do a background check nationwide. And we also get 3 professional references, and we talk to all 3 of them. And what we're really looking for is, when we hear the things like, oh my gosh, my mom loved her. Oh, the family couldn't have done without her. She's part of the family, that kind of stuff. We're looking for that compassion when we talk to the references, but we do talk to 3 references at least.
Yeah. What credentials are you looking for specifically?
We're looking for CNAs, but we're also looking for just a ton of experience across a broad range of skills. We also recruit LPNs and RNs.
Oh, wow.
And medtechs. So, different needs kind of drive what we recruit.
So from previous conversations that we've had, because she's helped a lot of my folks in senior living, you're able to take on tougher cases. So if, for example, somebody has an ostomy bag or a feeding tube, you provide more options, or an LPN request. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. Because they're independent, and they work for the client, they can work up to their level of experience and training. So if someone has proven experience with feeding tube administration or catheter management or wound care, and that's what the client needs, they can do that. The client can also have home health train their caregiver in whatever it is they need.
Wow.
So they can bring somebody in to teach them how to do the feeding tube.
Wow.
And that type of thing. But because they're independent and they work for the client, they're allowed to do that.
And that's because they work under a different
model. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, that's good to know. So do you, in that case, that kind of broadens your horizons for lawsuits. So how do you protect yourself on that?
We have liability insurance.
Okay.
That protects us. We also, another subject, but we also provide accident insurance for the caregivers. So say a caregiver falls and breaks her leg or ankle, then the family doesn't have to worry about their home insurance being hit with that. We actually have what's called OAI insurance. It's like workman's comp, but for 1099 employees.
That's excellent. And just out of nosiness, do you offer anything for your employees, like any kind of benefits for them?
No.
Because they're 1099.
They're 1099.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
But then that also means if they're 1099, they could work more hours if they chose to.
That's right.
Or they can kind of pick and choose what they work.
That's right. And that's two of the biggest, things that are attractive to them about this model. It gives them the freedom to work the days and nights that they want. And it also gives them the freedom to work as many hours as they want. We do a lot of 24/7, where we can use fewer caregivers because we do 12-hour shifts. So we've got caregivers that work 4 12-hour shifts a week or 3 12-hour shifts a week. So we don't have to pay overtime because, first of all, they're making much more per hour than they normally would. And if you look at the calculations around overtime, it has to be time and a half over minimum wage. So, we're well above that. And since they're independent, they can work as many hours as they want to. We have people that come to us and say, I need 60, 70 hours a week.
Yeah,
and the clients love that because then their senior doesn't have to get to know so many people.
Yes.
Right.
I will say sometimes that seniors can be particular, mature adults can be particular, also kids can be particular on who they want in their parents' house.
Yeah.
And so once you've made that connection with someone, it's hard to change over a bunch of different times. And sometimes there is trial and error. Like this man came in, well, mom doesn't want a man. We totally understand that. I'm sure it's the same in Hallmark.
Yeah. And, one of the things we try to do is, like, when we first talk to a client, I try to go visit with them because I want to kind of get to know them personally and see, are they a big talker? Are they, a man of few words, right? And because we're going to try to match them with somebody who has a good personality, a good fit.
Oh, you really are a matchmaker.
We really are. Yeah. And then I tell them, though, it's not going to be perfect. And if this isn't a good fit after all, we thought it might be, but if it isn't, you just tell us and then we find you somebody else. And we'll find them somebody until they have somebody that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, I love that. I think sometimes that can be difficult because different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. And they deserve to have what they want. Right.
Yeah.
And this is somebody that's sitting with them, as part of their lives, their everyday intimate lives. And they're, they ought to be comfortable with them.
When you have your initial meeting, do you request that, family members be there, especially if, you have somebody that's in charge of the medical and has a power of attorney and all that?
There's almost always going to be another family member there, whether it's a son or a daughter or all kids sometimes come in together, nieces, nephews. We've even met with people where it's like a concerned neighbor who is there with them because they're concerned about them being alone and maybe there's not any family members around to help them. But there's I can't think of any time that we've interviewed a client that there weren't some other supporting, friends or family around.
Yeah. So what does that look like? I've called you with some emergencies. What does it look like when the daughter calls or you get that connection? What's that process?
So usually what we do is we talk through everything on the phone. So they tell me ahead of time because there's some things they may not want to say in front of their parent, because it might embarrass them or whatever. So they'll tell me all of those details of their care. And then what I try to do is schedule a time that I can meet them in person. And I'll do that pretty quickly. If I can be there in 25 minutes, I'll tell them that, right? Or I may, it may be this afternoon, but I'm going to try to see them and I'll go at night. I'll go on the weekends. But yeah, we try to go and then meet with the client and their kids.
Typically when somebody calls you, are they in a desperation mode and they need somebody very, very quickly?
A lot of times, because we get a lot of calls from local rehab centers, and maybe mom has been fine all this time, and then she fell and broke her hip. And so the kids have not had to worry about mom. She's just been a free spirit, and she takes care of herself. And all of a sudden, they're told by the case managers at the rehab center, like, she can't go home alone. And so we get calls from kids or nieces or nephews who are out of town too. And they're just desperate because they're like, she's going home tomorrow. What am I going to do? I can't be there. I've got kids in school, that kind of thing. And that's where we do kind of a long distance discussion. But that's where we have this registry. And a registry is just a list of already vetted caregivers. We've already gone through the process with them. And so that's where we sometimes can find somebody immediately for them, because, maybe we just start calling around and we know when people are available and when they're not, because they tell us all this stuff when they recruit. They're like, I work nights on the weekend. That's what I want. And so we'll call that person and say, is there any way you can come tonight? Or is there any way you can start tomorrow? And we're usually, knock wood, able to find somebody pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Do you have a minimum amount of time for a caregiver? So, like 3 or 4 hours minimum, what is that?
Yeah, we try to do a minimum of 4 hours a day, because with traffic and the cost of gas and that kind of thing, it's hard to get a caregiver who wants to come out for less than 4 hours. Because some of them might be commuting for over an hour to get here.
Right.
It's Atlanta.
I think that's what a lot of people that start the process don't understand when they start checking in to home care that, why do I have to pay somebody 4 hours? I just need somebody.
That's right.
A couple times a day, 2 hours. And, that's
yeah. And I tell them a lot of times, these people are trying to make a living too.
Right.
We get calls about, I just need somebody to stop by in the morning and stop by at night. And I tell them, like, there's always a possibility, but it's going to take, I'm going to have to find someone who lives next door practically, and then it's probably going to be 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night, because it's just, right. And I just continue to say, these people have families and they're trying to make a living.
Right.
What is kind of you probably know the pricing in the area, even in like Atlanta, and I know some are very expensive, some are less expensive. What is kind of like the rates that you're seeing lower end to the higher end?
Yeah, I think I see 32 to 36 for just standard care. Now, when you get into feeding tubes and things like that, it can go up to $45 an hour.
Okay.
And more.
It's super specialized,
right.
Like hard to find.
Right. Or if you want an RN, that's way up there.
Yeah.
Now, what about like 24/7? Like,
I think different agencies may charge differentials for night and day, but we don't typically. Everything we do, our pricing is based on what the caregiver wants, and if and we're going to look at their experience and what they're asking for too. But yeah, we let that drive the final cost to the family, and we are very transparent about it.
So if you had somebody that needed 24/7 care, would that look like, how many caregivers would that look like?
For us, it's normally 4 a week.
Okay.
So what we try to do is we do a caregiver, let's say Monday through Thursday days, Monday through Thursday nights, then Friday through Sunday days and nights. So what you get with a referral agency is fewer caregivers, because that's way more than 40 hours each a week. So you've got to, with a traditional agency, they'd have to pay them overtime. So they're required to put probably 6 people in there.
Oh, wow.
Where we can do 4.
Yeah, you can do 4.
Yeah, it's just it fits better for those longer hour engagements.
But you also can partner with like long-term care.
Yes.
So how does that work? Like, so a long-term care policy is when it's like an insurance policy that will help cover anything to do with home care. It can also cover assisted livings or live-in. So can you speak on that?
Yeah. What we do is we file the claims. So the way it works is the client gets reimbursed by their long-term care insurer. But every time we send an invoice to the client, we also send a claim automatically to the LTCI. And so then, they reimburse it back into the client's account.
Okay. And then I know that currently you're not able to partner with the VA, or you're not partnered with the VA, but there are other agencies that are partnered with the VA. Do you know how that portion works with the VA?
If it's aid and attendance, then that can pay for our services because it's just it goes into their check, into their pension.
Yes.
The veteran's pension. But to file for straight VA benefits, we can't do that. But there are traditional agencies in the area who can. So if someone comes to me and says, my dad's a veteran and he has VA benefits for caregiving, then I'm going to refer him to one of our partners with a traditional agency around here.
Yeah, I do.
Because we do try to work together on these things, because there's things that some of us can do that others can't.
Yes.
And so that's happened a lot. That
especially in the area of like the Gainesville, Dawsonville, the North Georgia, we're really good at partnering together to really meet a solution.
Yeah.
Like we're all the team for the senior or for your loved one. It's not just, it has to be this or that.
Right.
So I definitely prefer that. And then just a little blurb about aid and attendance in case folks don't know. If you are a veteran or you were married to a veteran that served during wartime, there is money there for you. You have to have served, at least my understanding is, one day, even if you were in America at the time of the war. And then you have to meet a lower threshold than a certain dollar amount. That is a different podcast that we hopefully will be able to do.
I'm
going to watch
the
that.
Veteran or their spouse.
Yeah, veteran or their spouse, correct.
Yeah. I want to watch that podcast.
Yes, me.
Or listen to it.
Yeah, me too. I have a lot of questions. I want to be smarter.
Yeah,
so.
Me too. Me too.
Can you tell us a story of success with it being anonymized?
Yeah, there's several, but one in particular, we have a client who has dementia, and she also has an ostomy, and she requires 24/7 care because of that. She's not really ready for memory care, but she can't live alone. And even if she goes to memory care, she's most likely going to need care because of the ostomy, because she can kind of no longer care for it herself. So that's one where we have put 4 caregivers in. And those caregivers we've started calling the dream team, because we have a group text and they just handle everything. The 4 of them, they know each other's names. They meet between shifts. When they work back-to-back shifts, but they just work together to figure things out. So if one of them needs to go to a doctor's appointment one day, they'll just work it together, because they know that it's hard for the client to have somebody new come in. So it's been really nice that they can all work together. But that's been a really good thing, because she was really struggling, and she was struggling with people, new caregivers coming in and out. But we've been able to, again, knock wood, we've been able to keep a group of 4 caregivers together for her.
I think with dementia, that's really important.
Oh, yeah.
Because familiarity is like a key to helping them function daily.
Yeah.
The more familiar they are, any change really can throw them for a loop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I just have a quick question about the caregivers. Why do you feel like an LPN, an RN, a CNA, why do you feel like they would choose to work with a roster of names versus a traditional agency?
I think it gives them more flexibility, because they can kind of name the hours that they'd like to work. It also gives them a lot more hours. And that's what so many of them are looking for, especially this time of year.
Yes.
But so what we hear from them is that they love the flexibility, the fact that we can give them 12-hour shifts. And, they have more experience. So they like the fact that they can go in and use these skills that they've gained over the last 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Like they did feeding tubes when they worked for a facility. So now they can do it on their own and they get compensated for it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're using all of the skills and abilities. And then also, especially for, I'm sure there's a lot of moms out there that they can't work 12-hour shifts, but one day a week because their husband's home or whatever it is. And so they can kind of fill that need. So I do really love that.
What areas do you serve?
We serve Forsyth, North Fulton, well, the Milton area, North Gwinnett, Dawson, Hall, Lumpkin, the Big Canoe area. And most of Northeast Georgia, I would say, my agency does. But I also have counterparts across the Atlanta and North Georgia area. So Walter Richards actually owns the Canton office and has Roswell and Alpharetta and all the way up through Jasper and Ellijay.
Okay.
So between us, we can get all of North Georgia. We go to Athens. We've just gotten a new client in Athens.
Can you touch on what started Hallmark?
Yeah. The people who started Hallmark actually were 30-year veterans of the home care traditional agency industry. And there were several things that they felt like were problems that they couldn't solve in a traditional agency. And one of the biggest problems was finding good caregivers. And so what they did is they did the legal research with the Department of Labor and found out that there is a model where independent caregivers can be placed with clients. And so that's how they've tried to solve the problems that they saw themselves. And so they came together and started Hallmark. And then they provide all the coaching to us.
So it kind of was meant to be like a marriage between the home care industry versus the registry.
Yeah.
That's
what
great.
This is a hybrid model. So we're not just a pure registry. We're not a pure agency. We're a little bit of both. So I think we have the benefits on both sides. So you have the benefits of the independent caregivers on one side and the benefits of the things that traditional agencies bring to the table as well.
Yeah, I love that.
So I think earlier you brought up the point that when somebody is getting out of rehab, that they will not be let go if they don't have somebody there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things that happen with rehab that they can't release you until you have a caregiver. Are there different levels of care? Like, are they able to release somebody, say, if they have somebody part-time, or is that usually a full-time if they're coming out of rehab?
It depends on their needs. We have some people that come out of rehab and they just need like 12 hours a day. I can tell you, my mother, for instance, recently fell and broke her femur, and she was in Encompass. And of course, they didn't have to tell us she needed additional caregiving, but what we worked out with her is she had caregiving from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And that way she would have the caregiver, do dinner, get her ready for bed, get her in bed. And then the next morning, she really didn't get up until the caregiver came again at 8 o'clock. And so we have some clients like that where they can get up and go to the potty during the night, or maybe a potty chair with their walker, and they've got, they're competent enough to do that. We have other people that they, may have some cognitive decline, and so they may recommend they really need 24/7 because they're a fall risk, and they may just jump out of the bed at night and forget their walker. So a lot of it is driven by that. But yeah, for my mother's case, we just needed 12 hours. Others, 24.
All right, lightning round.
Oh, goodness.
What is some common misconceptions that you hear?
That we could just send somebody in to wash her hair twice a week. We get calls like that. She just needs her hair washed twice a week, or she just needs a shower twice a week. And again, that goes back to what I said earlier about these caregivers are trying to make a living, and there's traffic. And they're going to spend more time in their car than they do at their job.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes hospice, depending on what the person's condition is, hospice will come in if they have a family member that's staying with them.
Yeah.
And just is having trouble with the showering and things. The hospice will send somebody.
They'll send a CNA
if they qualify.
Right.
Qualify.
Exactly. And in that case, that's probably all they need is a couple of visits by CNA.
Right.
I think there is a common misconception around hospice that there's going to be around-the-clock caregiving provided as part of hospice, and there's not. It's a CNA coming in to give them a shower twice a week or a bed bath and wash their hair.
That's also another podcast.
That's another, yeah.
Yes.
It's
support. It isn't, yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of families are totally shocked when they find out that mom's on hospice and there's not going to be 24/7 care coming along. The family's expected to do that. The family may be expected to administer medications.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're not comfortable with it. So that's where we partner with hospice companies too, to put caregivers who have that kind of experience in with the families.
Yeah. What's one question that you feel like every family should ask?
They should ask about the insurance. Is there accident insurance? Is there additional car insurance? Because a lot of the caregivers will drive the client's car and take them to doctor's appointments and to the grocery store. And,
I would not have thought
a lot of seniors aren't driving anymore. And so one of the main things they need is somebody to take them to appointments. So they can either drive the caregiver's car and charge for mileage, or they can drive the client's car. And when they do that, our liability insurance provides some additional coverage for them driving someone else's car.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some red flags that you would warn families about?
I talked a little bit earlier about the clients having more control because these caregivers report to them. So the client is in control whether that caregiver stays with them or not. I know that there are cases where, a caregiver's brought in at the beginning to start the care and then maybe is swapped out later because they're needed somewhere else. That isn't going to happen with us because that caregiver is your caregiver. It's the client's caregiver until they tell us that it's not a good fit or, they need different skills or that kind of thing, but they're in control of how long that caregiver stays with them.
Are there red flags as far as the caregiver goes? When the caregiver gets to a house and they come back to you and they have red flags?
That's a good question.
Uh-oh.
Actually, I told you that I try to go to the home. Sometimes we have to do it over the phone because it's long distance, right? But I try to go to the home even then because I need to look at the surroundings. There's going to be cases where we may go in there and we may have to tell the family, you've got to clean this place up. There's hoarding and that kind of thing going on. And it's very unsafe for the client and the caregiver.
Right.
There's alcohol abuse, things like that we not only care for the client, but we have to care for the caregiver too.
And
we
with
can't
dementia,
put them,
that is also
yes,
a lot of times.
yeah. So that's the reason we want to go meet with the client ourselves. And, we're going to talk to the family too, but we want to see how the client's interacting and whether or not, the other thing is we may see that somebody that's going to need 2 caregivers, right? Maybe it's a really tall man and he needs a Hoyer lift and, he can't get out of bed on his own and stuff. We can't put a little 5-foot tall female in there, right?
We can't put you in there.
Yeah, but I'm pretty strong. But anyway, we got to make sure we got a right fit for that too. So there's lots of reasons to go into the home or go into the facility and actually talk to the client.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Where can we find you? Where can we find Hallmark?
Oh, well, we have a website, Hallmark Homecare. Ours is called at Lake Lanier, Georgia, because we surround Lake Lanier.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. And so you can find us there. We're also on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Nextdoor. And you can call our number and we will show up.
Love it. And Vicki, where can we find you?
You can find me at Anchor Real Estate Advisors. I'm a senior real estate specialist, and my email is resultsbyvicky@gmail.com.
Oh, perfect. And I'm Rebecca. I'm with Manor Lake Senior Living. We're all over kind of the North Georgia area, and we're spreading through the state. My specific website is manorlakedw.com. And then you can find our podcast, Aging Answers, at iHeartRadio, on Spotify. We do post to YouTube and also Apple Pod. And we would love to help answer. If you have questions, reach out in our show notes. We love helping older adults live better today. Make it beautiful.